Mike's footage is really impressive simply because of the size of Lake Erie and the fact that it's a no-fly zone. There's nothing around for something like 60 miles. It really makes these lights that Michael Leahill is videotaping very remarkable.
But are these objects new, or have they been seen before? March 4th, 1988. According to the Cleveland Plain dealer, Sheila Baker sees several small triangular objects shooting out of a huge metallic gray football-shaped object descending over Lake Erie. The U.S. Coast Guard even witnesses this event and makes a written report. Quote, "The smaller objects began hovering in the area where the large object landed. They appeared to be scouting the area." They were never able to fully resolve this event. The description of these objects approaching the lake is eerily similar to Michael's footage from August 18, 2006. But Michael's encounters go further back than the team realizes.
Head's turning.
Okay, it's March 26, 1988. It's approximately 12:45 p.m. We are with Sheila Baker, who lives at, we had the wrong address. Can you give me your correct address?
35958 Hiawatha.
And that's in Eastlake, Ohio. We're going to discuss with her a sighting that she had of an object on March 4th, 1988, and we're just going to let her describe in detail what occurred that evening.
If you want to just start telling us what happened, and then we'll start
From beginning to end.
based on your description.
We were coming home, and I saw something over the lake. It was like right down the street. If you look out this way, you could see like right where it was. And I was coming home, and you could see it, and it wasn't moving. And I had my husband go down the street, and I said, "Go down to the beach because I'm telling you there's something out there." He kept laughing at me, and I said, "No, I'm serious." So we went down there. We got out of the car down at the beach, and I had left the kids in the car, and you could see it. It was, it looked almost like the shape of a blimp, and it had lights on both sides, and one end was brighter and one end was a little bit dimmer, but one end flashed. It wasn't a constant light that was on, and it seemed to rock like just a little bit, so you could just see it rocking back and forth, and it hovered. It didn't make any noise, but the ice was cracking really loud. The ice down here doesn't crack like that. It was just making like, it was rumbling and cracking, and it was real, real, really loud. And there was no animals barking, no nothing. And around here we had a lot of dogs, and it was surprising because you always hear the dogs out. And there was no animals, just the real, real loud noise out of the lake. So we were standing on the beach, and what had happened was my husband and I were looking at this thing, and it started to like kind of turn. And I thought, it was really weird to make it eerie feeling. Well, there's something up there. But you could see that it was a ship or something. You could see that there was a gray line, like a football kind of thing in the middle, but you couldn't really see it. You could just see it that it was there. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're going to ask you to draw a drawing in a while.
Because it was kind of like you could see the whole thing, but not real well. But you could see that there was a middle to it. And we stayed and we watched it for a while. And then what happened was...
Okay, we're back on. We had a phone call interruption.
Before, Mrs. Baker, we answer any questions, we'd like to get your testimony first, and then we'll go over whatever questions you have.
Okay.
It's not because we want to be rude or anything, but just so that we don't influence whatever your responses would be. Okay?
Well,
Thanks.
we sat down at the beach and we were watching this. I had the kids in the car, and I was getting kind of weirded out, because you see all these things, you hear about things, but you never really believe them until you see them. And it started to turn towards us, like it was coming in closer to land. And because my kids were in the car, I didn't want to, stay down at the beach, because you never know, what's going to happen, or something's going to come down and get you or whatever.
In other words, you were concerned for your safety.
Yeah, because it was coming closer to us. It seemed like it knew that we were there. We were the only ones down there at the time. And I was getting really nervous because I said, I told my husband, I said, we got the kids in the car. Okay, let's get them home and safe. This way we don't have to worry about anything. And he said, okay, so we got the kids back to the house, and I put them in their room and locked the door. And that's kind of, I don't know, I had a real eerie feeling, you know, after we left there. And we were down there a while looking at it, and we came home and we could watch it from our living room.
And when you say we, who else was there with you?
My husband and my kids. So, and then I was looking at it from here, and I said to my husband, well, maybe I'm nuts, I don't know, but let's call Sue, who lives across the street, and see if she sees the same thing that we do. So I did a call her, and her and her son went outside, and they saw the same thing. And we kept hearing this noise at the lake. And that really scared us because, you know, like I said, the lake doesn't make noise like that. And we watched it most of the evening. And when it started to come down, we all got real curious, so we all went back down. Sue drove down to the beach and she saw it with her son. And her husband, she totally cracked up. But they all do. Everybody thinks that, you know, we didn't see what we did. And so now we get down there and the thing's starting to land. You can see like red and blue lights. And they said that they were planets and gases and nonsense like that, but they were actual lights starting to flutter. Before this, while it was still in the sky, there were like little triangle planes. We counted 5. We weren't sure if there were 5 or 6, but we counted 5 of them. They were running back and forth. They were going up and down, like hovering. They didn't make any noise, but they were going really fast across the sky. And by this time, the Coast Guard was down. I called the Coast Guard, I would say at least 12 times. And they kept telling me, well, you're crazy, and something's wrong.
We're going to pause for a phone call again.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're back on.
Sorry. So now what had happened was these planes were looked like they came out of it, because they came out of nowhere. We saw them come out, I don't know if it was on the side or on the front of it, but you could tell they came out of it because they were real little. They looked like little yellow triangles, but they were real bright. They went super, super fast. And they went up and down like this instead of, you know how a plane goes this way? They were going up and down and like diagonally at it, and they were hovering around it, and then they started shooting out towards the lake. And this time the Coast Guard saw all this, because that's when they send their people out, when those little planes started appearing. And when they got down here, they saw these things. They were coming real close to the coastline. That's when these kids were getting scared.
When you say kids, you mean Coast Guard personnel?
Yeah, they were young, sorry, young boys. And they were real scared, and we got really scared, because we were right down on the beach there. And we figured the coastline, that would be it. And we were afraid that they would attack, you know, their truck, because their truck had lights on it. So we told them, you know, turn off your lights, because the more they kept coming closer and closer to the lights of the truck, because the truck was parked on the hill. There's like a little hill over the ledge over there, and they could see the lights, because they seemed to be coming at the lights. And so we had them shut their lights off, because we were scared. I mean, you never know what was going to go on. We didn't know what was in these ships, or, you know, or planes, or whatever they were, because we couldn't tell. But I've never seen a yellow triangle fly around the sky.
It was yellow?
Yep.
Was it a
Bright, real bright. It looked like a light. It's what it looked like. It looked like a bright light. You know how a car light you'd have? It looked just like that, but it glowed. It was yellow.
Was there any portion of it that was brighter than any other portion?
No, it was all real bright.
One solid bright light.
Yeah, little bright triangle. What it looked like. You know, like the little glider models you get for your kids that are in triangles, you make paper airplanes? Like that shape, that's exactly they were. And they were solid. They weren't, it didn't have wings or anything else. They were just...
Did you take geometry in high school?
Sort of.
Do you know what an isosceles triangle is? What a equilateral triangle is? Which was it more closer to?
It was...
Was it even-sided? All three sides
yeah, it
were
was...
the same
No,
height?
no. It was more pointed like that.
Okay.
Like exactly like that. The front was more pointed. How's that? I flunked geometry, by the way.
Okay.
That's not why we're smiling. Go ahead.
Oh. But, no, it was more pointed, like almost like a tip of an arrow.
Okay. So in other words, the two sides were longer
Than the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was wondering why you were laughing at me.
We're not laughing at you, believe me.
Okay.
No, we're not.
No, but they were all solid, bright lights. part of it that was darker than others. We saw it real close down to the shoreline. But when they started coming at this thing, and they went back into it too, we thought, well, maybe they disappeared over the lake. Well, here they had gone shooting out over the lake and coming. Then all of a sudden we saw them about an hour later start coming back really fast, and they came right into that ship.
Did you see anything? Did you see anything open up on the ship?
Couldn't see
Or
it.
anything like that?
No, but they went right into it because they were right between the lights. So it had to be an opening on the side of it because they went right into it. They came up and then they went right into it.
Were you able to observe which direction they left? Did any of them?
They didn't?
They just all hung around the larger object?
Oh, no, you mean when they went over the lake?
Yeah.
They went out that way towards Canada, I would suppose. If we're north, Canada's across the lake, right? They went out towards Canada.
They go
And
east.
then, yeah, well, they went east too, this way, because they were coming this way. None of them went that way towards Cleveland. They all went this way.
And they go south or southeast?
Nope, stayed over the lake.
Okay, but so they go east.
Yeah, they went east and then north towards Canada, and that's where basically they stay. When we saw them shooting out, it was just almost right over land, and we had seen them come out, and I said, "What in the world is that?" And he was just laughing. He says, "You're just, you know," and he goes, "Yeah, sure. I'm going to tell my mother we were sitting home watching UFOs tonight." But that's what happened. They were there, and then we saw them, like I said, about an hour later, come back the same direction they came in, and yeah, she's gonna go in there, and they all went right back in it, like one at a time too. It wasn't like they all swooped down on it and went back in it. They went back in one at a time, and then the ship seemed to land in the lake. It was about maybe an hour difference, an hour lapse. The ship started setting down on Lake Erie. That's when all these colored lights started coming on when it sat down, and you could see the lights as it was landing on the lake because it's all ice. And then that was it. And as soon as it landed, about 5 minutes later after it landed, you could still see the red, the yellow lights, the blue lights running around the bottom on the lake because it was a clear night. It was beautiful, and we saw it sit down. Then as soon as all the lights went on it, the lake stopped crackling. Everything got dead silent. There wasn't animals, there was nothing except us. But everything got totally quiet. That was it.
Can you give us a time, approximate time, beginning to end?
About 6. I think it was about 6. My husband said it was later, but I don't think so. I think it was about 6 o'clock.
It doesn't get dark until about 6:37.
Yeah, maybe it was 6:30 or 7, because it wasn't exactly dark, but it wasn't light out. It was like dusk almost, where it's just starting to get dark.
And when did you last observe it?
I'd say 11.
11:30 at night. You were down there for 4.5, 5 hours the whole time?
No, we came back up to the house and watched it. When it started to set, we went back down.
At the same time, were you able to observe any of the objects in the sky that you would recognize?
Oh yeah, absolutely, because we were there and we kept looking at it to see, you know, we were curious. Even from the house, when it started moving inland, you could see, you know, what it was if you looked real close.
Where was the moon?
The moon. I know
No?
it. Yeah, there was moon. The stars were beautiful. All the stars were out.
Was it a clear night?
Yeah, it was real clear.
Did you happen to notice where the planets were?
The planets that they told me this was.
Well, the planets.
I didn't really, we weren't looking for the planets, but they would have been behind it, like farther off. See, they told
Any
me.
question in your mind that what you were looking at was or was not something that you should have recognized, like the planets? Or
No, it was definitely a ship because you could see that there was a center of it. You could also see planes coming out of it, or little vehicles or whatever they are that came out of it, and we saw them go back in it. And we were almost directly underneath it. We were here, and it was here. And the more we stayed down at the beach,
Let me
it
ask
was turning towards us to come towards us, and I got scared, thinking, well, maybe something will come out or get us, or something will happen. And I just got all weirded out. I thought, you know.
Let me ask you this: if straight up would be 90 degrees, and straight forward would be 0 degrees, and halfway would be 45 degrees, what angle would you
About
say?
88 degrees.
88 degrees, almost directly above.
Almost directly above us. It was maybe, if we were standing here, it was here.
Okay.
That's when we, the second time we went down to the beach, because it was like out further on the lake and it came closer inland. And that's when we started getting concerned. Because it was definitely closer to us and it was turning towards us. Like you almost knew that we were there, looking at it or something. That's how we felt.
142.
Because the way I think about it is, if we can see it, I knew that they could see us because we were right out in the open on flat land looking at it. And it seemed to turn towards us. And I would think that if it was something, then it would definitely,
I see.
Yeah.
Mrs. Baker, I'm going to show you figure 43 at page 141 of the MUFON Investigator manual. And I'm going to ask you to hold this page out for you at arm's length and ask you to note the two circles just above your thumb there. If those would represent the full moon and the crescent moon, and holding those at arm's length, would you give us a rough approximation of which of those circles would be about the same size as what we call the mothership in this discussion would have been from your location? In other words,
it was huge.
okay, Mrs. Baker has selected the circle in the lower left-hand corner, the largest circle on the page. Was it as big as that circle or bigger? At arm's length.
It was big. It was huge. It was
If you held a, let's say if you held
Do you know the size of the Goodyear blimp?
Yes.
It was bigger than that.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to flip the page over. Okay, now holding those pages at arm's length, first with regard to the blimp, which of those images, if any, best resembles what you saw? Okay, Mrs. Baker has selected the image at the bottom of the second column of the page, the largest of the lens-shaped objects. And at arm's length, again, as big or bigger or smaller than that?
It was bigger.
Much bigger, okay.
It was like I said, it was bigger than the blimp would have been. We thought maybe it was a blimp because blimps don't make really any noise except for that like hush motor noise. There was no noise on this at all, and it was the shape of a blimp because it had lights on either end.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you. You mentioned that there were some other objects that flew in and out of it. Apparently, is there any image on that page that resembles any of the objects you saw flying in and out of it?
If this was the size of the ship, then the little triangles would have been about this size.
Okay. Mrs. Baker has selected the seventh triangle from the top of the middle column, comparing that in relative size to the large lens-shaped object she picked at the bottom. I'm going to give you a piece of blank paper now. Pencil handy.
Pen, okay?
Preferably pencil in case you have to make some erasures.
No, we don't have.
Okay, we'll do.
My kids tend to.
No.
I have crayons.
I'd rather do something. Can you erase with this pen?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. First, what I'd like you to do is if you could draw for us what the large object was that you saw.
There's any colors associated
Any other identifying labels or marks or anything you saw?
Nothing. We tried to look too to see if we could see any, but we did see the lights. We make the lights like stars. This end was a lot brighter.
lights across the bottom?
When it
What color were
was
they?
landing, it was blue and red.
Blue and red lights? Were they alternating blue and red? Or was one red, one blue, or there was no apparent pattern?
There was no, they just kept going like, almost like a strobe light would keep going, but they were just different colors. But you could see the blue and red alternating. They went like in almost a wave. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Like a movie marquee sign?
Yeah, this light there. This one blinked all the time.
The one on the left-hand side
Yeah.
blinked. Was there a regular pattern of blinking, or did it seem to...
It was almost like if you looked out on the lake, you know, they have those things when you come into the lake and you blink. It was almost like that.
We're going to pause again. I got a phone call. We're back on.
That's okay, as long as it was accurately described. So, what color was the object in between the lights?
Gray.
Was it a dark gray or a light?
Very good, the gunmetal gray.
Okay. Did it seem to have to be solid to you?
Yes.
Did it seem to have three-dimensional shape? Was it a flesh?
No, you could tell that it was like almost rounded.
In other
It
words,
was like a football.
okay.
It was,
Was the top part then brighter than the bottom part?
nope, it was like all the same color, and you could definitely see the outline on it. We were standing so close that you could see the outline. You couldn't see, it was totally dark in the center of it and at the top, but you could tell from the difference between the sky and the ship. So it was gray like that.
Did it seem to have hard edges or fuzzy edges?
No.
No, they were very clear edges.
Play with Rick.
Did it
Just hand it the TV, please.
seem to, you mentioned it wobbled?
It rocked this way.
It rocked end to end like a teeter-totter
right,
would or something?
exactly. It
Okay.
rocked end to end,
Did
right
it
there.
seem, no, that's okay. Did it seem to vibrate or
No.
spin?
It turned towards us.
It revolved maybe 90 degrees towards you? In other words, if it was facing you flat, it revolved
The
towards
front
you.
end of it, you could tell where the bright light was the front end of it. It was going like this, and we were there for a while, and it had started to move real slowly like this, and start tipping down at us.
Okay.
That's when I got scared and made sure that I went right into the car.
Could you draw what it looked like after it had turned 90 degrees towards you? In other words, when you were looking on it, and just like that?
Yeah, it's my husband.
Okay.
It looked just like that, but looked like right at you. It would be like a football looked at you. It looked, that's exactly the shape it was. What else did you want to know?
Okay, now when it turned toward you, could you draw what it looked like when it was facing you?
Didn't directly face us because we left really quick.
Okay, well, at whatever point it was most directly turned towards you.
How you?
Hi, how you
You
doing?
said this.
Well, I tell you, you ought to see this thing. I watched this thing down at the lake with the Coast Guard guys.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. It had these guys running. They were so scared. There was, it was strange. As it got lower to the water, you know, all these little, what we thought were jets came and hovered right above this thing. So we assumed maybe they were like those Harrier jets that can just hover. And then when they got closer, these jets came about
Stop it.
40 to 50 feet above the ice, and they were going back and forth across the lake unbelievably fast. I mean, it was just like they were covering a 50-mile stretch just going like that fast.
What shape were they?
Well, we thought that they looked like little, like jets, as we assumed. And then when they got closer, they were so little, they were like smaller than a one-seated Cessna. And they didn't make any noise.
What about shape?
We couldn't tell. All we could see was lights. I could tell you it had wings. And that's why
Well,
we
from in
assumed.
the house, from where
It looked
we
like a
saw it.
triangle, is what it looked like. It just looked like a plain triangle. You know, we couldn't distinct, we couldn't tell a tail fin or anything like that. It looked like a triangle because there was lights down the wings and on the tip of it. But,
I mean, at the top of the triangle, there was a light.
yeah, there was a light.
Now, see, I didn't see that.
Tell
I
me
saw just a plain light.
What color it was?
Could you pause the tape?
No, couldn't tell. One was white, and one was bright white. It was dimmer light, and then the other one was bigger. But when
Would
it got
you say this was accurate? Of what we saw on time with the big ship that we saw?
I couldn't tell any body between the two lights. But you could tell that they were definitely connected by something, because if the nose dropped, the tail went up. If the tail dropped, the nose went up, exactly. But anyhow, when the thing got closer to the water, the one bright light started like twirling all different colors, red, green, blue, yellow, and then it just sunk into the water, and one end was white and one end was red. And then it just sat in the water for about a half hour, and then it was gone. And while it was sitting on the ice, those planes were hovering above it, and you could see that they were flashing lights down on it. And there was like 5 jets within maybe a quarter-mile area of each other, and then all of a sudden they were just gone. They just went up in the air, and, I don't know, out, just out.
About what time did they leave?
9:30, quarter to 10.
No, it had to be later than that, because we figured
No.
the time.
There was definitely nothing in the sky, nothing in the lake by 10 o'clock.
You weren't even back here till after the news.
I know, but I'm just saying, when we were down there, the Coast Guard had a watch. And at 9:38, it hit the ice, and at 10 o'clock, it was gone.
Did you talk to the Coast Guard guys about
Yeah, I
what's
sat
going
and talked to them for a half hour. We watched the thing for an hour.
on? What were they saying to you?
They couldn't believe it. They said they never saw nothing like it in the world. And the guy said that he's been in service for years, and he said that he knows that a Harrier jet can't take off and fly that fast from a start. And this thing got up so high in the air and was gone so fast, it was seconds, and it was gone out of view. And the night was so clear that we could see for miles and miles and miles.
Did you get any names of the Coast Guard people?
No.
You had them the night you came home.
Oh, the first names, yeah, I don't remember. But I'll tell you, it was wild. They were scared. These two guys were so scared. They thought, first of all, our assumptions was it was a satellite, maybe from Canada, that went bad, and it was coming down over the lake. And they told me that they believed that it was Canadian air maneuvers, okay? But then when they saw these planes, they came about 5 miles offshore, and they were going about 50 feet above the ice. And you could just see the ice and stuff rippling behind
I
them.
told them about telling them that they turning off their lights and stuff.
Well, they were blinking lights out the whole time.
I'm talking about the Coast Guard kids' lights that were going out towards the lake.
Oh yeah, they got nervous. They didn't want their truck to be seen because they thought maybe it was they didn't know what to think. They didn't know it was Canadian or Russian or whatever, and they figured they didn't want no witnesses, so they were afraid maybe a missile would get shot at them or something.
Is there any confusion in your mind that it was maybe the moon or the stars?
No, not the first night. The second night, it was much, much, much higher in the air, miles and miles.
Yeah, but it was the planets.
But you know, the second night, it appeared at the same time and dropped down in the lake at the same time. The times were exact because the Coast Guard was here that night too. But the first night, no way. I mean, we went and saw that thing. That thing was no more than 3 miles in the air.
Well, you're aware that the newspaper accounts are that it was a planet.
Planets, right? No, it's bullshit. Because I went and stood on the lake and looked up at it. I saw the thing moving.
Yeah, we were
Because
down there.
you could see it pivoting like this, okay? And then when it got way out over the lake and got close, that thing just started spinning around. There was all different kinds of lights, and the Coast Guard and we were just looking at it, flipping out. Just couldn't believe it.
Okay, I
That was
know
wild.
you're busy, but if you have some time later on, we'd like to talk to you too. Thank you.
No, it looked like this. 'Cause I could see the outline of it because he thought I was crazy.
Miss Sheila, is that box up or not, refrigerator?
No, Chuck.
You know, I'll tell you, as clear as the night was, you couldn't distinct any kind of a body between the two lights. So we went right down in the
See,
ocean.
I said that there was a body because I could tell that there was, because I told you that.
Well, I couldn't. I'm just saying, you know, when I saw it, I couldn't tell that there was a body. But when the thing moved, the things were so symmetrical to each other that it had to be connected. That was kind of obvious. What's the matter? Is that refrigerator light bulb still working?
Henry, I'm not taking it. I don't care about the refrigerator light.
What's it?
Okay, Mrs. Baker, now you mentioned that when it turned towards you as you drew to the right of your first drawing, it kind of bent down
Yeah.
towards you like that. Did you see anything on the top surface of it?
No, it was just round. Like
And
I
all,
said, I could definitely tell there was an outline of it. And my neighbor did too.
okay.
She went down directly after I came back up because she thought she was losing her mind again.
Would you flip that paper over now? On the back side of that paper, would you draw what the other objects you saw looked like?
Just like all time. Just like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many did you see?
5.
5 altogether.
Now, if this was a ship, this is where I say they were coming in and out of, right here.
Somewhere in the front or back.
Around the back. But it was on the opposite side because they would come up like this and they'd be right there.
landed on the ice, did it seem like it went under the surface of the water, or did it rest on the ice for a period of
I
time?
don't know.
You couldn't see that, could you?
We saw Sue saw it too from her backyard.
Yeah, but you couldn't see that because we had a hard time seeing it down there. We had binoculars. We had powerful binoculars. We were
You
watching.
could see it sit down though.
Yeah, you could see it on the ice sitting there.
Sit on this. No, it didn't look like it sunk. We went down the next day too to see if we could see anything. All you could see was ice broken everywhere. I mean, huge chunks of ice. Huh. Just like if the river had let go and all this ice was washed out, but you knew that wasn't what it was.
Now, how far from the mouth of the river was this? Was this like east or west of the mouth of the river?
North.
But I mean, in
North.
terms of where the river meets the shoreline, was it east of that point or west of that point?
No, it's this way.
Straight up north.
Yeah.
Straight up, almost
Just
directly
north.
out from the mouth of the
Right.
river. Okay. About how far out in the lake was it?
5 miles or something, I don't know. Henry says about 5 miles. I'm not real good with geography.
Which Coast Guard station?
Airport Harbor.
Did they come up? Did they drive up?
They drove up from...
That's quite a ways down, isn't it?
They're 22 miles out. They drove this way. They said they could see the lights from their Coast Guard.
Right, they were watching it and observing it from the Coast Guard station itself. They didn't know what to make out of the little white lights.
I'm sorry. Did they tell you why they decided to come up here?
Yeah, because they
They said they'd gotten so many calls that they wanted to come and investigate it. And they said that they had even called us back a few times that night. They said that they were just coming to investigate it, period.
Because they
They
said it
give us
was
any
totally out of their
explanation why.
league. They didn't know what it was, what it could be. They didn't want to speculate. They also said to us, even on the next day, that the Army and I guess NASA did not want them to investigate any further. They did not want them to go out on the ice. They didn't want to, because they have a cutter. They could have gone out to see where it landed, because their men made a report too. And somewhere along the line, I
Who's
think,
men?
the Coast Guard's men.
Oh, okay.
And they could not get an answer from NASA. They couldn't get an answer from anybody. And they were told not to do anything about it. That it was out of their league, it was out of their hands.
They were told it was out of their league.
Uh-huh.
That's a quote.
Yep, and out of their hands. That's exactly what they told us. And in fact, I talked to, I don't know if they have sergeants or something like that, but he was the person in command there. And he got on the phone with me, and that's exactly what he told me also. That they had to forward all their information to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and a place in Detroit, which I don't know where in Detroit. They had to send something, but they said they were not allowed to investigate it any further. That's what they were told, and to stay out of it.
Do you remember the name of anyone you spoke to?
No, I have a piece of paper here that I wrote down the names, if I could find it, and I would have it, I
Before we
think,
leave, could you take a look for that?
yeah, I'm not sure what
Right.
anything is right now, but yeah, I did, I wrote down the names, because I was real upset that they called the police on me, because that was a crap.
Did they ever tell you not to talk about it?
They told me that I was just more or less, that it was out of their league, and, no one would more or less believe me, I think is what they were getting at when they talked to me. I mean, they sent the police to my house, and it was more harassment than anything else. So,
Okay.
you could tell they didn't want to talk about it either, because I called them back the next day, and they were real snotty to me on the phone.
That's why. Dale, why don't you fill out one of the forms? Maybe we'll go through the form, and after that, I think we can start answering questions. See if we have.
What we'd like to do is ask you a series of questions. Okay, we'll start from where did you view it from?
Beach.
Okay, so you're outdoors. Did you ever view it? You said you viewed it from indoors also?
Inside my house,
Okay.
right from the window right next to you.
Right.
Also from the front door.
Okay, anytime from a car?
Oh yeah, from my car also driving back home.
Okay. Do you wear glasses?
No.
Did you ever look at it through binoculars?
Yes.
How about a still camera? You didn't take any pictures or anything?
My neighbor did, they didn't turn out.
Okay.
Did you see those photographs?
She said nothing came out of the roll. She couldn't understand why.
When she said nothing came out, did she say that was it just a blank image, or was it flawed, or?
She didn't say. She just said that they didn't turn out. It's okay. Go ahead.
What would you consider the terrain around here?
Beg your pardon?
The kind of terrain? River, hills, woods, fields?
Both. There's no fields. There's a little bit of woods down by the beach. There's a river.
This is mainly a residential.
Yes.
Right? Is there any airport nearby?
Boston Nation Airport is the closest one.
How far away is that?
It's down the street. It's about 2 miles away, maybe 3 miles away.
About power lines in the area? Major power lines?
You mean those high lines?
Yeah, how
No,
close are
there's
those?
none of those.
How close are you to the CEI plant here?
We're real close. It's right across the river.
In other words, less than a mile, more than a mile?
I'd say less than a mile if you went down to the beach. It'd be definitely less than a mile.
That's the Eastlake coal burning plant, right? Not
CEI's coal burning plant?
That's a illuminating company. It's a
fossil
power
fuel,
plant.
though? It's fossil.
That's fossil fuel.
It burns coal.
Yeah, it's fossil fuel. Tell us again the sky conditions.
Perfect.
Clear.
Clear.
Any precipitation that night?
Nothing. It was absolutely a beautiful night, clear night.
It's very cold.
And all the stars were out.
It's cold.
Now, when you first saw it, what position of the sky was it the first time you saw it and then the last time you saw it?
We were coming home, so I was looking at it coming down Lake Shore, and it was just kind of like this.
Where was it? North, south, east,
It was
west?
north. It was always north.
Oh, okay. Even the last time you saw it, it was north?
Yeah.
Oh, it was dead.
Okay. We already talked about how high it was. When it was closest to you, what would you figure its altitude? Off the ground.
Or off the surface of the lake?
Half a mile, maybe.
And when it was, how about distance from you as opposed to the altitude off the lake?
It wasn't too far from us at one point.
How far would you say if you had this?
When we were standing on the beach, it was pretty close.
I would say it was about a quarter of a mile over the lake. And when it went down, it was probably 4 to 5 miles below the lake.
That's right, Robbie.
Did it ever pass in front of you or behind you?
No, but it started turning at us.
Okay. In the area, did you notice any airplanes?
No,
About a helicopter?
nope,
Balloon?
nothing,
Searchlight?
nope,
Did you notice anything after it, such as an airplane?
no.
Helicopter?
I did not. All I saw was those little tiny planes. She's talking about normal ones. I didn't. Those were way on the other side. Those were over there. Nothing close to it. They were like going towards Los Angeles that way.
When you say airplanes, are you referring to those little triangular things?
No, you're talking about normal airplanes, aren't you?
I'm in the area besides the things that you saw.
No. Over here there was a couple going this way and that way, but those were normal planes, and you could tell those were planes.
We've pretty much asked all the rest of these.
Yeah, she already talked about.
Okay. Is there anything from what you've heard so far that you want to add? Because we might as well just do all this at one time.
Well, what do you want to know?
Whatever there is that you've heard that you want to tell us.
I told Matt.
I would say that, well, as far as the directions and everything and the altitude, I would say that this thing, we first saw it, its closest point was maybe a mile in the air, and it was about maybe a quarter mile over the lake. And when it went down, it looked like it surfaced into the lake, and it was about 5 miles out. And then just before it went into the lake, it started flashing different colors, and that was it.
Is there anything in your wife's description that doesn't make sense to you or that you want to disagree with? Or
Just, I didn't hear her describe it. It looked like 2 bright lights, that's all it looked like.
Okay.
With a body in the middle.
Okay, I guess unless you have anything else to add, I guess we can stop the tape and we can start answering your questions. Okay?
So we'll be going off at 1:25 p.m.
The second night, Henry, we saw the plant, which they had assumed that that's what we saw the night before, but they weren't. We didn't see the ship. All we saw was those little tiny planes again. And we only saw them for about maybe 40 minutes, because by the time the Coast Guard got here, they were gone. But all we saw was the little ships. And that was it. And those were the same place.
For how long did you see him?
About 45 minutes. That was it. And
About the same time of night?
then, no, it was earlier.
But the first night we watched this thing for 3 hours.
Yeah, about 3 and a half hours.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that's the report form we want to.
You want this off now?
Yeah.
Asking you back.
No, I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
I'll repeat what I said. When what we thought was a large vessel was getting close to the water, the 2 bright lights, the brighter ones started flashing different colors, and and when it landed on the lake, the bright light turned red, and the other light stayed white. But the feeling that you got when you were there is that the thing was in trouble because the lights kept getting dimmer and dimmer, and the little crafts kept coming around it more frequently. So you got this feeling that the big ship was in trouble, either sinking or whatever, because the little planes were coming around it and the lights were getting dimmer. And then all of a sudden the lights were gone.
But the thing is, I don't understand why the Coast Guard kept telling us we're not allowed to investigate. We know it's out there. We
Well,
want
that's one more thing. How far apart were the two lights you saw in the big object?
I would say definitely 350 to 500 yards.
Thank you.
It's huge. But even the Coast Guard admitted that their people saw the same thing and they were just not allowed to do anything. But they thought the same thing, that maybe it was just sinking or went underwater. But those planes went into that thing. Because they did, but they were back the next night.
Okay. Well, there seems to be an ongoing series of sightings all the way back to your first sighting on March 4th, and they're still going on. In fact, we just had a report last night out toward Madison. The State Highway Patrol had a sighting.
It was up toward Chardon.
Yeah.
The State Highway Patrol saw it too?
Well, the officer didn't want to talk, but there was an officer. There was an officer on the scene.
Well, that's like here too. They were working for us up and no one wanted to talk.
I'll tell you, the freakiest thing was when that thing hit the water and then it stopped cracking. I mean, it was so loud, you had to raise your voice to talk.
Yeah, the ice
And then when it
never
hit the
gets
water,
like that.
there wasn't a sound. I mean, you could hear
A pin drop,
pin drop.
absolutely.
and not a sound. And it was cracking so hard. I mean, you were like looking to see where the ice was moving, and it wasn't moving. But I've heard like the ice crack living down here for so many years. But when that thing hit when that thing hit the water, when them lights hit the water, and the little planes came around it, it just stopped. It was so eerie. It was so eerie.
Now, do you think that it's something that maybe is an attack carrier?
No, I don't really think there's anything to be afraid of. These things have been sighted for several decades now without any reports of their harm.
Do you guys feel that the planet's being watched? I mean, just...
Yeah, really.
Is that your
what do you
assumption?
think?
Over all this?
I mean, you do this.
Best guess?
Yeah.
Best guess, yeah.
You think we're being just observed?
My best guess,
When
yeah.
you've got documents like this, what would you say?
I'd say we're being observed. I'll tell you, when I stood on the beach, I saw this thing just looking at us, I felt like waving because I knew it was looking.
And you could tell that it saw us because it turned at us. And we were the only ones down there, and we were in an open, if you went down to the beach, we were open, we were right out in the open, and you knew it saw us.
I'll tell you,
when
if you
it
can find
turned
these
at
two
us-
Coast Guard kids that worked that night, they'd give you a story and a half.
Well, that's right. You were going to try to give us some names. if you
Yeah,
remember.
I wrote down the names, and we can't think of the names.
I don't know, but I'll tell you, they were so scared they were white. When their truck pulled up to the lake and that little thing started coming at them, it came at them and it made a 90-degree turn. It just went all the way out to, I'd say Perry, and then shot right up in the air and came back out to that thing. It
Yeah.
just went down, up to the edge of the lake, all the way along the lake, up to Perry, up, and then back out to the shore.
All in how much time?
Seconds. I mean, I would say that in
It was so quick.
40 seconds.
This thing's
In
going
40
this
seconds,
way and
it came
straight
out
up and
5
down.
miles from the lake to about 500 yards from the shore, went all the way down to Perry, all the way back up in the air, and out to 5 miles back in the lake, and I'd say 30, 40 seconds. And you know what? And there was no noise. There was no noise of this thing coming by. It was so freaky.
If we would have called you on March 3rd, the day before your sighting, we would have told you that there's such a thing as UFOs, what would you have said?
Oh, I believe in them.
Okay, but
Wholeheartedly.
before that...
I would have said fine. I would have said I have never seen one. I believe in them. I believe in them. Why not?
Well, see, the thing is with me, I've had other weird things, just like telepathic things.
Because I can
and stuff.
imagine what the Earth would be like in 2,000 years, where we'll be able to go. So who's to say that there wasn't other planets involved 2,000 years before us?
But it's always been an interest, but this is the first time that I've ever seen one.
But the
myself.
little things were cooler than the big things.
I mean, the big thing
Unreal
just
to
sat
watch.
there. It was just rocking back and forth, but you could tell that it was observing us as well as we were observing it. Because when it turned this, I said I panicked. I wanted my kids home and in the house. Not that really, when you think about it, it would have made a difference after we thought about it. If they were going to get us, they were going to get us.
Yeah, right, something like that.
But I don't know. I just felt safe with my
another thing
children
that
in the
would have
house.
made is if those two lights were connected, the size of the big ship was phenomenal.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
and it was like I said,
It could have just
it was neat.
had,
500 yards is over, around here it is, 1,500 feet, that is.
It was huge.
Well, the Coast Guard said that the lights were about a half a mile apart. And I'm not so sure they were that far, but it was, as they got to the lake, they kind of looked like they were closer, but not to the eye.
When we were almost underneath the thing, it was big. It was real big. And
You know, it's like, I was looking at these two things, and I was trying so hard to see a body connected them.
But see, I saw the body. That's what I said to him, and he was just looking and looking. And when it started to turn, like I said,
I couldn't tell the body connected it, but...
And Sue said she could tell there was a body connecting it too.
You know, another thing was, when the two lights were in the sky, they were like, I would say, northeast. One was like northeast, and the other one was like southwest. And when they came down, they were more east and west of each other. So the thing actually went like this and turned. You know, it was like going this direction and turned like this. You could tell this thing was going down so slow when it got to the water.
Yeah, it was just like hovering, and then it was just dropping real
It stayed.
like almost like a helium balloon
About like
dropping.
a leaf falling?
No,
Not even that fast.
No, not that
Relax.
fast. You couldn't determine by watching it that it was moving, but as you stood there after minutes had passed, you could tell in the sky,
was
when there were
starting to
stars
come
and
down.
stuff, that it was lower. And then when it got close to like when it got like within 500 feet of the level of the lake, then it started moving a little rapidly. That's cool. Definitely something to see. I'll never forget it the rest of my life.
These are our names and addresses. We'd like to leave that with you in case anything else turns up or you get another call from this lady or
Or if
something.
the Coast Guard calls you and threatens you.
Think they will?
Stranger things have happened.
Well, actually, they did not
I
want
mean,
us saying anything.
If you've
and
got
it was-
strange people showing at your door dressed in black, driving black cars, you can call me.
Okay, yeah, because I'll tell you what, this lady that called me too was more interested in my health.
I think she's probably more involved in this.
I don't know what she's involved in, but again, my hunch is not representative of exactly what I encountered.
Well, these questions that you asked me were nothing like the questions she asked me. And just, you know,
The question you asked is a really good question.
yeah, this lady was asking me more, she was very, so you know, we shouldn't talk to anybody else about this.
No, it's up to you.
It's up to you, but this is America. You can talk to
No,
your
I'm asking you because I'm curious because, you know, when you...
Well, you know what? We're kind of curious to see what kind of information other people have, but I don't think we're going to get any more than what you just told me.
Yeah, I wouldn't volunteer too much of anything, and I especially wouldn't volunteer that you've got a copy of that report.
No, I
because,
won't.
you may find yourself that you're going to get some requests to get that back. That's really just for your information, as, you know, just in confidence.
We were wondering why they released it.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Especially your
This
name
has
was in
nothing-
there.
Yeah.
Your name and phone number was in there.
What if we could sue them?
Well, no, they're telling the
Henry.
truth. They're telling the truth.
No, seriously though, this has
Slander.
nothing to do with the guys in the Jeep though.
Well, when they say mobile units such
Two.
and such, I
Well,
think that's
the
Yeah, but it
Mobile Unit
doesn't
2
have-
was the first night we saw it. That was the truck, Mobile Unit 2. That was the...
your name was right up in here.
I'll tell you, you guys would love to have the report of those guys talking to the station.
That's what
I
I'm
was
saying.
there and I was
They
laughing.
shut them up.
Because they kept
really
saying,
did.
you will be advised that there are smaller crafts going at high rates of speed, and the other guy on the other end's going, what? You know, and then
They didn't want them talking at all.
every 30 seconds, this kid kept calling back saying, I would like to, or you should be advised that this thing's now shining lights all over the lake, and it's turning different colors. And his commander over there, CO, just said that, keep watching it. These kids
But
just
they
kept
did, they
breaking out.
shut them up. They really did, because when I asked for the guys, if I could talk to one of the guys that was down here the next place, they absolutely not. Totally refused their names and everything. And I had written them down, and I don't know where they are, but I'll look for them, but if I can find them, I'll call you.
Please do.
Names.
This is the article that was in the News Herald. Does that sound anything like what you saw that night? Did you see that article first?
No.
No, okay.
That'll tell you the truth.
That's what really happened that night.
That's what it was, the planets, you never know.
That's what the guy from Action Camp 3 says. I'm out here in Bay Village watching it right now, and it's right in front of Bay Village. I says, well, I'm 40 miles away, right in front of the Chagrin. It's right in front of my house.
It's over our heads. That's right.
You know, it's right over my head, bud. He says, no, he says, if you look at it real close, it's Saturn and Jupiter. And I says, well, if that's the case, I said, what are the little things flying around it? I
And
said,
going
"Are those
inside of
jets?"
it.
He says, well, those are atmospheric conditions exploding around it. And I says, oh.
I talked
We're
to that.
so glad.
I talked to that astronomer that they quoted the article about those gas emissions and all that. He said that the first time he saw that explanation was when he read it in the paper.
Oh, yeah?
Well, see, the Coast Guard, like I said, they said, it's out of our league, we can't say anything to you, I'm sorry. And they, like they said, they had to transfer it to Detroit. What's in Detroit?
I think it's their headquarters.
Is that what it is? 'Cause they said they have to transfer it to Detroit?
One of the places that went somewhere.
Oh, yeah, here, Detroit. That's what I was curious, and they said, like I said,
What does it say?
Coast
Yeah, Coast Guard something. Where is it? Commanding Coast Guard something. I don't know what this stands for. I think it's
crew.
Command Coast Guard Group maybe. Yeah.
Because I think that's what they told me.
Do you ever see these guys?
Who?
Quite often, because you're around here. Coast Guard
Coast Guard?
guys?
No, you never see them. Unless you're in trouble on your boat, and then you don't see them unless you call them. There you go.
Right.
Only when you're partying, too.
I'll tell you, we're always out in the lake, and if this thing comes back this summer, we'll be right underneath it in our boat. And I'm
You don't
dying to
think
take
it
my
could
boat
be-
out there and look where this thing went down.
Yeah.
I would love to go out there with my sonar and see if there's something huge on the bottom that I can detect.
We have a feeling that there's going to be more sightings because it just seems to be happening and happening.
It
Well,
seems
this
like
thing-
this is the beginning of something that's been going on.
Has anybody seen the big thing since then? No, just the little ones, right?
That's what I said the second night we saw
It's
the little
kind of
ones.
hard to say because
No, honey.
some of the people have described some real large things, but it's been at night. So all it describes, like that drawing I showed you with all the lights.
Yeah. Well, see, this thing only had 2 lights, but man, I'll tell you, you can tell that this thing was one body.
Yeah, it was.
You can definitely tell it was one body. And then when it
One
was
person told us that if you held a basketball at arm's length, that the basketball would not cover the whole thing.
No,
Oh,
it
no way.
wouldn't.
No way.
This thing was huge.
No way.
Like I said, it was like a huge, huge football, bigger than a blimp.
I would say maybe.
See, you laughed at me when I told you let's go down to the lake. He said no, and I
I would
made
say
him go
maybe
down.
if you held a football at arm's length, I don't know if that would cover
No,
it.
I think they would still be smaller. The football, because you could still see, it was huge. Well, from where we were standing,
You
to
could
right
get
on the
you
lake.
could get more of a detection when it was sitting on the water. You could really see how far it was apart because you could tell.
You think it was in trouble and it went under the water?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because you know why I think that is because first of all it started flashing just before it got to the water. So you would think that it was an emergency light or something.
You're looking on the horizon, right?
Looking at the
Right.
horizon.
And what's it look like? You see the
Okay,
horizon.
you see the horizon, and you see a dot here and a dot here.
Going
and
like
it kept
this,
going, going down like this.
Right.
So
When
it
it
kept
met
going.
the water, what did you see on the horizon?
All you saw, it was so close then that all you saw was the 2 lights.
Uh-huh.
And you could actually see, when this thing got like real close to the,
It's fine.
when,
wanted to fall.
no, she'll fall.
She'll fall if you don't hold your arm there. But
She'll
she's
just hold it down.
yeah, just pop her down on the floor. It's okay.
So anyhow, when this thing got close to the water, you really got the feeling it was in trouble because the light started flashing, and then the one bright white light turned red. And then all the little things came around it, and there was 4 or 5 of them, and they were like shining lights down on it. And then all of a sudden, they just all took off different directions. As soon as the lights went out, I stayed there the whole time. And when the lights went out on the 2 big things, the little ones split.
Where did they go?
All different
Everywhere.
directions. Most of them all went east. One went straight up and went due south, and the rest of them all went east.
Did they seem to go east, southeast, or?
No,
due
more
east.
east.
No, they
East.
just went straight across the
That way.
lake that way.
If you drew a line straight from where we are now and
Straight to
It
the
would
Perry
be
plant.
straight. There would be a
Straight
straight
to
right
the
out
Perry
towards
plant.
Perry.
They didn't seem to come in.
But now, if
But
this
they
thing
did seem to
sunk
go
under
out.
the water, then could it be that these aliens are just the reason we're sighting them, and not the mothership? It'd be because they're hanging around and they don't have anywhere to go.
You can guess and guess and guess. We don't really have a whole lot of answers, but we know that what you're telling us matches up with what a lot of other people have been telling us in the last few weeks.
So you're not crazy.
What you really got to believe is how fast these things go.
Yeah,
Where do
that's
you
why
see-
we
where do you see
knew.
them?
That,
Without
You
a
think we
sonic
could walk
movie.
down? Can we walk down the...
well, here, come on,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
drive down. Drive down.
Don't mind.
When you go to the corner right here,
Right, make a left.
you'll see the beach. You'll see the lake. You're 200 yards from it right
Henry, I'll
now.
take him down where
I have
we
some
went. I'll
film.
come right
Okay,
there.
go ahead. Yeah, take it down.
Watch Boo Boo. She's got diarrhea. She's puking.